Good morning.
Good morning, Ian. What's the good word?
You caught me off guard
I
there.
froze him.
Woo! I don't know. I had a rough morning. I'm
Okay,
not.
tell me.
It's Memorial Day.
Mm,
I'm only in to do the pod, and I'm leaving,
mm-hmm,
so my
mm-hmm.
brain's not fully on. And I fell for the phishing email this morning.
You
Fell for a
did.
phishing email. Yes.
How far did you fall? And it wasn't me, just for the record. I did not create this phishing email. This is not on me.
I'm pretty excited about this phishing email because one of the things I've always dreamt about is like all these phishing emails are so bad. I'm like, I feel like, why am I wasting my time doing good stuff when I could be making amazing phishing
Mm-hmm,
emails and tricking
mm-hmm.
people so easily, right? Because if you just put any effort in at all, it's just incredibly easy. So somebody put some effort in, and I was very excited. It was like Mailgun, who's our email provider, only
Mm-hmm.
for Lara jobs, so it's not like
Mm-hmm.
crazy critical, but still. Yeah, this really good, nicely formatted email. They obviously just stole from Mailgun and just swapped out the link. They did a
Mm-hmm.
great job with the link. Like mailgun.com is the real Mailgun.
Mm-hmm.
Mailgun.app is the phishing site. And they
They
just
got mailgun.app?
yes,
Oh,
and they just
man.
fully copied all the HTML, CSS,
That's
JavaScript. Like
pretty
you go to
good.
mailgun.app, it's perfect.
This is right out of
And
the Aaron Francis School of Fishing, by the way. This is very good.
exactly. Yes, that's right. We've talked about this before in your heists. So
Uh-huh.
exactly. So I never click emails notifications like this, but it's Memorial Day. My brain's not in at work
Mm-hmm.
mode, and I clicked it and I signed in, and the login didn't really work. And I was like, and I had
Oh,
two-factor. I took my two-factor. If they
it
had just
took your
shown me
two
anything,
factor?
if they had just shown anything, right? Like, oh, login, oh, didn't work or whatever. They could have shown anything. System down. And I probably
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have even thought about it. But it's just hanging. And I'm like, it doesn't feel right. I was like, mailgun.app. Is that right? So I go to mailgun.app again and it looks right. Then I search Google for mailgun and it's mailgun.com. And I was like, okay, that's wrong. Something's off here. So I go in, log into mailgun.com and change my password and reset, log everybody out and whatever, do all the stuff. So I did it instantly. Seems fine. Not too worried about it. But, and obviously I use one password and whatever. So this password's
Mm-hmm.
not on like all my accounts or anything. So it's not too big a deal. It's fine. But yeah, it's crazy. It's just like,
That's a pretty good. If they took your two factor, that's a
yeah,
pretty thorough phishing
yes,
job.
yes. And that's like something that can't, I don't know. Who knows what they're doing with it? Right? Like if they were really on it, they could presumably
Replay it
instantly
immediately,
replay
yeah.
it, yeah, and get in. But it seemed like it was maybe not fun. Like I think I noticed a bunch of people on Twitter seem to have gotten this email,
Mm-hmm.
so it might have been very effective and overwhelmed their little droplet or whatever they were using.
Mm-hmm.
Again, now they've gotten the first step right of make a very believable email and a very believable website. I'd like to see them go the next step of making sure the server is big enough to handle it if you have a lot of success with your phishing. That's where
Yeah,
they're
listen,
still not there.
if you're a criminal and you need some advice, come on this show. Like
Yeah.
we've
We
got a
got
lot of
ideas.
ideas. We've got
Yeah.
opinions. Like it's
Oh
fine. Nobody
man.
will know. Nobody listens. We just need to
Oh
talk to you.
dude, we could do it like, like a 90s news show where it's like their
Mm-hmm.
blackout silhouette. We could change
Yep.
their voice.
60
Like,
minutes or
come
2020. Yeah.
on. Come on the
I would
show.
100% have a criminal,
Be
a
great.
white collar criminal on the
Yeah, white
show.
collar, white collar.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that would be awesome. So here's my question: what do you
Mm,
think they were after? API keys?
I assume, yeah. What I mean, they
Do
can't
you
really
have
get
logs, or
money.
have you checked your logs to see
Yeah, I
if they
mean,
got your keys?
Mailgun does. So they don't have an obvious audit log to see like what's gone on recently that I could find when I
Mm-hmm.
was in there. But there's no additional emails have been sent. I am gonna rotate the key, although I do have a
Yeah.
bunch of IP restrictions and stuff. But whatever, I'm gonna
Oh,
rotate the
okay,
key.
that's
I haven't
helpful.
gotten to that yet. So they probably can't actually send anything because they definitely didn't change any of that stuff. I looked at that,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm not super worried. I didn't like postpone the podcast because like whatever, it'll be fine. And at the end of the day, it's just sending stupid emails. So I guess they sent a
Right.
stupid email, fine. But no, I don't think they got into. I don't think they got in at all. But whatever, gonna do that final step
And
just in
I guess
case.
Mailgun might have one of those dashboards where you never get to see the key again, Like you
I
copy it, you
believe
never
that's
get to see it
true.
again.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
good.
That was the other thing where that was the other thing. You're right, is because that's a key from like whatever last year sometime, because it's got like the date, and it wasn't a new key they just built or anything like that. They did just register Mailgun.app 3 days ago, which
I cannot believe that was available. I should have registered that.
I know. This is why
What
you
am
got
I
to go out there,
doing?
people. You got to own every variation of your product name. Like, not all the way out to all 500 domains, but the ones that are obvious, like that people are just going to believe. Like, yeah, app, AI, net, org, whatever, all those things. You just got to own them. It's like $200 a year to own all of them. It's fun.
My dad bought aaronfrancis.com.net and .org for me in
back in the day,
the year 2000. Yeah.
Yep.
So I have them all. I got them all still.
Did the same with my kids. Got them when they were born. Got the domains. Yeah, so you got to own that stuff. But then yeah, so I got in there super quick before I think Mailgun even knew what was going on, and so I was able to like reset my password and do all that stuff. But then I tried to go back in to just mess with the key and look at other stuff, and it was they had closed off logins, and they're kind of, I imagine, in semi-panic mode. So I do feel bad for them. Their status page is like just like 7 times in a row, like we're working on the issue or something, like that kind of like panic message. Which I don't know. Yeah, this is a tricky one. I guess to reset everybody's passwords, then you gotta like dig through. The other thing is, it seems like they probably got hacked in some way, is my guess, because all the people I've interacted with on Twitter over this morning seem to be active customers or past customers, so that's pretty well targeted to not have the emails. But maybe not. I definitely don't know that for sure, but obviously,
that's an interesting vector, because obviously MX records and DKIM records are public, but how do you go from domain to good email? I guess that's probably a solved problem for
maybe
bad guys.
It is, right? Like, I don't know. It's like, I'll be curious if like the other Userscape employees got it. That's something I'm kind of curious about. Like, because it's on the account under me. So yeah, if it's just like, if everybody at Userscape got this, then okay, they just might have pulled it from one of those services that let you look up people and whatever. But not, I don't know.
That's a heck of a way to start a holiday morning.
I know. That's not how I want to start my morning. It's like,
no.
I was like, I got an hour, nothing to do before the podcast. I'm in the office. I'll just like kind of
holiday.
Cruise.
You got to make a beer mosa, get ready to do some grilling. It's crazy.
Working on the internet, man. This stuff doesn't happen when you own a bodega. It's nobody hacking your email provider.
Owning a bodega is so much easier. That is a good
way
point.
Less stress.
Way more profitable too.
Way more profitable. Nobody ever comes in and robs you or anything like that. It's so much less stressful.
All right. Well, good start.
There we go. What's going on with you?
Sorry, I hit you with what's the good word after all of that. No wonder you froze like a deer.
The good word is seems to be everything's good. It's all good. That's the good word. Hopefully.
Well, I'll tell you what the good word is over here, Ian, is it's crunch time, man. We move tomorrow.
Oh boy, a move in the middle of everything else.
A move in the middle of everything else. Got a course to record. We're moving tomorrow. It's just, when it rains, it pours, which is an old Salt slogan. But yeah, when it rains, it pours.
It's very good for you that this worked out with the Aaron Francis studio of sound and lights and all that, because at least you don't have to move all that and reset your setup and blah, blah. Like, you could just, obviously you'll have a day or two of just moving chaos, but then like you could just jump right back in without a bunch of extra reset up work and all that. So
yes.
That's really nice.
The added benefit of not having to reset up this space, but also not have to move everything that's in this space. That decreases the pain just a little bit. Cause like, several months ago, we moved everything that's in here. I had to like do a moving day just to get it all out of the rent house into here. And so that is hopefully will decrease stress a little bit. And also knowing that I can just like leave and come back up here and get to work is hugely helpful. But yeah, moving sucks. It's a pain. I hate it. Hate the move.
Is the house done?
No. The house is not done.
I do. There's no way the house is done.
There's no way the house is done.
No, I do.
This contractor told me it would be done in January. It is May 27th.
Yep.
We were supposed to move in April 30th, and we had to extend our lease by a month because he was like, "Oh, it's almost done." Now it's been a month and he's not done. Dude, what are you doing?
Oh, they're never done.
It's just the most frustrating thing in the world. It'll be move in, like we can move in, but there's still like, 15 things on the punch list he's got to come back and fix and finish. And I'm like, dude, you had like more than 6 months to do this, and you kept telling me, "Oh, this will only take 4 weeks to do." I'm like, dude, I don't believe you. I'm going to give you 8. And then it turned around and took 100 weeks. So yeah, super frustrating.
5 months overtime, 6 months overtime. Yeah,
exactly.
Oh man. Yeah, that's how these things go.
I don't get it. I know everyone on the internet gets mildly frustrated with a blue collar worker, and they're like, "Why don't you just do things on time and answer the phone? I'm going to start my own business doing it." It's like, surely it's not that easy, but come on. Hey, it can't be that hard, right?
I know, it's crazy. I don't know. When we were really, I don't know how in the loop you were. It seems like you were maybe a little hands off-ish and just kind of dealing with the general contractor. I don't know if that's
big time.
accurate, but yeah. So when we built our house, we were not hands off at all. We were like, my wife would like literally have a folding chair and just like sit there and like be watching what's going on essentially. And I was there all twice a day. But it's crazy because like one guy doesn't show up, and then the other thing can't happen because that guy didn't show up, and then it's just and then now everything's delayed a day. The guy didn't show up again tomorrow, and now everything's delayed 2 days. Now people have another job to go to, and blah blah. So it just goes on forever. It's unbelievable how long it takes to do anything. We added a bedroom, not even added a bedroom. They like had when we built the house, we had 2 offices in the house right next to each other in this little side wing. Yeah, it's a power move. But then we didn't. I got an office out of the house and whatever, so we didn't need that. And our sons were sharing a room, so we were turning the office into another bedroom. And we're like, all right, it's like turning an existing thing into another, not taking down a wall, not doing anything really, like adding this little bathroom and just like basically painting. And it literally took like 7 months. It was insane. It was just like, and obviously this isn't anybody's top priority, right? Because it's like this little thing, right? And so they're like pushing us off, and you got to get the plumber and electrician, and so they're delayed and they take forever. But it's like, you think you're gonna like, okay, we got to put in a toilet and a little tiny shower and a sink and like paint and do this one wall and for the to like make a bathroom, and it took like 7 months. It's crazy,
infuriating. I will say, moving sucks. I am ready to not be paying rent and mortgage. That sucks worse. Yeah. I will take any amount of pain to get rid of this rent situation. So
that'll be nice, freeing up a few bucks there.
Oh, the Try Hard Studios is taking over the studio of Light and Sound. The rental house is going back to the earth from whence it came, and so I'll just have the one property that I'm having to pay for on the 0 salaries. And so that's getting closer. We're getting closer to an equilibrium. Not quite, but we're getting closer.
That's enough. Yeah. One is enough. Because there's always
one is just enough.
Our house has had, I mean, like our fridge is leaking water. It doesn't even have water piped into it, so it's probably the seal or something. The ovens are acting weird. It's just like there's always something. Even with just one house,
always something.
So
always something.
More than enough. All right, so you're moving. But you had a big week.
Had a big week.
Man, you had a lot of stuff. Just look at our notes. You have like several huge things, so we're gonna have to.
I know.
I don't know. Let's start with whichever you think here.
Let's start with DHH.
Let's start with the good stuff,
man.
Jump right
in. So I'm doing this course, right? Doing this SQLite course. Great course. Go sign up. Doing this course, and I have this Trello board full of like people that I would like to interview about SQLite. And on the cards, like Nuno's on there because he's using SQLite and the new thing. Bunch of people we know, and then on there is DHH with like 3 question marks because I'm like, oh man, that's a reach. I don't know if I can get him.
Stretch goal
for sure. And so I'm on Twitter. It's just happened to open the app. Like I've never done that before. So I'm on Twitter and I'm scrolling. And I see Daniel Vassallo tweet something about they're using the new Campfire in their small bets community, of which I am a part. I'm early. I took it a long time ago. And so I see Daniel Vassallo tweeting about Campfire, and his screenshot is it's like the SQLite command line shell. So it just says SQLite 3, and then he's like, select count star from users. He's just counting the users up. And I thought, okay, this is a good opportunity, because Daniel Vassallo and I know each other. We're friends. Screenshot like shows SQLite, shows Campfire. And I think I'm gonna come in the replies and just hit him with a @DHH. Would love to talk to you about this. And DHH responds within like 3 minutes, 2 minutes. He responds to my tweet and says, sure, like send me an email, david@hey.com. I'm like, okay, freaking out, man. So I hop over to email. Got to play it cool, right? You don't want to come off as like an adoring fan. You got to play it cool. Very cool. So I sent him an email and was like, hey, thanks. This is Aaron following up from Twitter, working on this educational series. Would love to talk to you about how y'all use it in Campfire and Rails. I can make myself available at any time except next Tuesday because I'm moving. So just tell me when works for you. And he responds immediately and says, how about in an hour? And I'm like, what? What? This is crazy. I went from shooting my shot on Twitter to on a call with DHH in like an hour and 15 minutes.
Ah, that's crazy.
Crazy.
Were you already at the office, or did you have to go to the office?
Fortunately, okay. I was already here. And I was already in, hair and makeup, as right. They say in the business, and was ready to go. And so I was just like, sure, let's do it.
Wow.
That's crazy. And so then we hopped on the call, and he talked for like 45, 50 minutes, and it was awesome. It was so fun.
Yeah.
And that was it. We were done. And so then I published it, I think that was a Thursday, and I published it on Friday, which we can talk about the strategy there. But that was a pretty wild ride from tweet to podcast.
It was so awesome. Yeah, there's a bunch of interesting little strategy things, I think, in this. But just, I'll say right at the top, this is literally the best DHH interview I've seen.
Yes.
Maybe ever. Definitely since like the old days where he was a little more, especially since the old
that's
days.
My friend you're talking about.
Yeah,
Be careful,
exactly.
Ian.
So yeah, it was great. He was like sincere, which doesn't always happen. I felt like he was, he was talkative, but that's kind of how he is, which is fine.
Which
and
is
like,
great, yeah.
Which is great. And he had a lot of good, interesting insights, I thought. We can get into some of the details even on the interview.
Let's do it.
But I mean, the SQLite stuff to me was all like, I think, great stuff that like the people interested in the course are going to be really into. I thought you had some cool insights with just even how maybe it's not set up by default as you might expect, which would be obviously cool stuff for you to cover. And I even thought some of the stuff that resonated with me from a little bit different angle was him talking about like simplicity in the with the idea of like that he himself can still build things, and even though obviously he had to create a ridiculous scenario of like Basecamp goes out of business and he runs out of money, which is like impossible. But even so, just the idea that you want to be able to build stuff without a huge team, because even if you are rich and you just want to build something and you don't want to have to hire 4 people to do it, you want to be able to do it with your own hands. And so that part really resonated with me. That's kind of I've been kind of a little bit on that kick the last year or two of like just poking around and seeing how to even build stuff anymore, and what are the cool kids doing with the new stuff, and then deciding I don't like that stuff mostly for a lot of the same reasons he doesn't like that stuff. So there's a connection point with me and DHH of like all that complexity and what are you actually getting for it and all that. So yeah, that was all really interesting. I'm sure you have some other things on that too, but also the other thing that really stood out to me was just I loved using it. I feel like interviews and courses are often like a thing you add into the course as like, oh, and we have interviews with these people. But having the interviews in the beginning it makes so much more sense. Like do the interviews before you launch, and then they are the lead gen as opposed to just being a bonus for you to buy. It's like, no, forget having it be a bonus to buy. Just use it as lead gen to begin with. So I thought that was really great that you just like did it and got it out. I was wondering if you're going to do that with the other ones or balance it, or what you're thinking there.
Yeah, that's a great strategy point I want to talk about, because that was very purposeful. Before that, the strategy on the interview, I am happy to hear you say the other stuff resonated, because I wanted to talk to him about SQLite, and we did, but I also know it's DHH, and people want to listen. People want to listen to him talk. Yeah, right. And so like part of my thought was like, all right, let's talk about SQLite. Let's, hype that up a little bit, but then also talk about other stuff that would maybe make the interview shareable beyond just like, if you're interested in SQLite. Like if you're interested in DHH, he's going to talk about, his own two hands and stoicism, and like you're going to get the good stuff. So come for the SQLite and also get the good DHH stuff. So that was kind of the strategy with the content there. After I published it, some people were like, "Oh, dude, I thought you were going to make this a paid part of the course," and that was never the goal. One is it makes me feel better to go to these people like DHH and say, "Hey, I just want to interview you. It's going to be free. It's not going to be behind a paywall." Right. Because I feel a little bit weird, and I don't know if anyone else does. I know that people do this for courses, but I feel a little bit weird going to DHH or hopefully the creator of SQLite and being like, "Hey, can I interview you? It's going to be behind a paywall when I'm done." It's like, no, like I'm not going to be your bonus material.
I'm literally selling you directly.
Yeah. Exactly. So that made me feel a little bit weird, but also, I think it being free and open gives it a better, like, like a viral coefficient, right? So if it's free and open, people can watch it and share it, and they don't feel guilty of like, hey, you should watch this DHH thing, but you got to pay. Oh, it's part of the course. Right. And so I'm hoping that will increase our reach. And so far, it seems to be working great. So yeah, that's the strategy. That's the strategy for DHH and for all future interviews like that.
Yeah, I think DHH is especially good. I don't know how many more you'll be able to pull off like this exactly. Because the thing, at least for me, is like DHH, has owned a business a long time. He's deep on like the business end. In addition to, of course, the technology, where like the creator of SQLite is probably going to be an interview that's like down in the weeds of like the tech of SQLite and ugly technical stories of how it was built and whatever, all that kind of stuff, which is interesting also. But I think DHH, you get to cover like, just so much ground and just the idea of it from a different perspective and a very Laravel perspective to me, right? Because like the Laravel community overall is very entrepreneurial. So it's like not just using SQLite because it's cool or it's fast or whatever. Here's the technical whiz bangy thing it does. It's like, here's why we use it from a business perspective and why it makes sense.
Because you want to be a one person business builder like Rails people do.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So that was, I think, spot on with the crossover to your more inherent audience of the Laravel crew, where it speaks a lot to those of us there too. So yeah, I thought it was great. I wish every DHH interview or tweet or post was like this interview. It was awesome.
Well, I'll see if I can start a new podcast with him so you can get more of those.
That's all right. If you gotta demote me for DHH, that's fine. That's fine. I don't know what else about that. What else about the interview? I mean, it happened so quick. It was like crazy. It was like, I see you on Twitter, and then you're like, oh, I'm recording now, and then it's done.
So quick.
And now it's been out there. So what about the release day? So you took a day.
Took a day. Steve got it edited up, and we put together, a short trailer. Well, it's just like a couple of clips to get people excited. Put it on Twitter. Tweeted. So, the like, if you tweet links, you'll get demoted. I don't really, I don't really care about that too much, to be honest. But when I have a video that I want to tweet, there is a way to tweet the video through the Twitter ad center. This is insane. It's just a total product.
It doesn't work very well.
No, it's like not what it's supposed to be used for. It's impossible to find. It barely works, but there's a way to tweet from the ad center. Yeah. And if you do that, you get this nice like card experience that shows video title, video description, and a call to action. Like when you click on the video, it'll take you somewhere else. Right. And then you get to still write, all the stuff that you want in the body of the tweet. So I tweeted it that way. DHH retweeted, a bunch of people retweeted it. So it's got like 150,000 views on Twitter right now, which is great. And then I don't know how many views it had. I'd have to log into Vimeo because interestingly, and I'd be curious your opinion on this, we put the video on the high performance SQLite domain not on YouTube. And that's kind of a test, and there's a thought behind it, but I'm curious what you think of that strategy.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. I was like, oh, this is so much better. Like, that's what, yeah, because this is I think if you were doing like just a generic DHH interview, like, hey, come on, let's shoot the shit. That maybe being on your YouTube makes a lot of sense. But I feel like for this, it's like it has a specific purpose. And even though you did cover some other topics that weren't just SQLite, it's like the point of it was SQLite, and that was definitely the thrust of the majority of the conversation. And so that's why he was coming on to begin with. And yeah, that was great. I mean, I so it was a nice clean page. You had the little sign up thing, which I assume did okay.
It did, yeah.
And so yeah, I thought that was great. I mean, it's always weird when you have like stuff that starts to get all over, and it's like you can't just go to your YouTube channel and see all of your stuff.
Yeah.
But you could probably cross post it over there at some point. I think you might want to get the algo love as well, maybe after a couple weeks or whatever time frame is appropriate. But
nailed it.
Yeah.
Yep. That is exactly what we're gonna do. So yeah, the thought, you got it, man. You don't even need me.
You got me dialed in. I've been doing this for 9 months now. I know how you think. Yeah.
So the thought is like, we need people to sign up for the list. That's the whole point of this thing. And the question, like, if you look at it as a funnel, like, how many people are gonna sign up from highperformancesqlite.com if the video's embedded there? Probably a lot more than would leave YouTube to go sign up, right?
Yeah.
But then, of course, the numbers are inversed when you get one step higher in the funnel. How many people are going to stumble across it on YouTube? A huge amount more than are going to stumble across it on highperformancesqlite.com. So the game is like, if you multiply those two numbers, like the top of the funnel and the conversion rate, what's the biggest number at the bottom? And so for this one, we went with, let's put it on our domain. This is probably one of the best ones, if not the best one, or like the most like highly anticipated, interview. And so put it on our domain so that people, one, know that like this thing exists, and two, will sign up for it. And then we are gonna put it on YouTube, maybe this week at some point, but we're going to put it on YouTube as well. But we wanted to capture that first initial wave of people saying, oh, there's a new DHH interview, go here and watch it. Some people like, I sent an email out to the list that was like, hey, I did a DHH interview. And somebody responded and was like, why don't you just like put this in an RSS feed and turn it into a podcast? I'm like, well, maybe I will, but kind of the whole point is not for it to just like anonymously download in your podcatcher. It's for you to go to the website and sign up. That's kind of the deal. So
plus having yet another thing that I guess like meaning like a temporary podcast for the SQLite course or something. I don't know. It just becomes like another thing to get people to do, and it's like,
I can't spend all my time marketing my marketing assets. I need to market the asset that I'm going to sell. And
you have your YouTube channel, you have the course website, the email list. Like it starts to get to be just impossible to manage too many things like that. I think that makes sense.
Having a limited run podcast is interesting, but it's literally going to be like, 10 interviews over the course of 1 month, and then it's over. If we're going to do that, we might as well just put all the videos on YouTube instead.
Well, I think that's the podcast going to be the least useful of all the channels anyway. Like, it's not a podcast is super discoverable or anything. Like, you're going to be way better off having them in YouTube and all that. So I think that makes sense. It's like we've talked about it here before, but like the podcast is for like your closer knit crew, like you have on here, and we are interacting with the people every week, and they're listening to this every week, and that's the thing. But the limited run, or even if you had some kind of ongoing SQLite podcast, I mean, how many listeners does that ever get? Like,
nobody wants that.
Going to be a thing.
No.
So
podcasts are great for like deepening relationships over the long term. I'm assuming, and I think they're terrible for like, let's make a marketing splash. Like, have you ever tried to make a splash with a podcast? Boy, is it hard.
I mean, I can't even think. I mean, there's that one that was like the Catch a Killer or whatever. Like, there's a couple that have hit like that, but it's like, literally a handful out of millions and millions of podcasts. So, it's not like a good strategy probably. So, Yeah, so that was huge.
That was huge. Last on that, the list is up to 2,400.
Wow.
2,450 is what we're sitting at right now. The pre-launch list for the course.
Okay, so how do you feel about that? How does that compare with now? Before you went to Planet Scale, you had a list for the MySQL course, right?
I did.
Or no,
and it was like before I went to Planet Scale, the list was like 900 or 1,000.
Oh, okay. So we're well ahead of that. All right.
We're well ahead of that, way ahead of the screencasting.com list. I think I had like 600 or 700 on that list.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, depending on, conversion rate and pricing, this looks like it's going to work.
I like it.
There's a good chance, and I really, really, really hope that this comes to fruition. There's a good chance that after the course launches, TryHard Studios might have more money in the bank than 1 year of Planet Scale salary. That would be
wow. That would be awesome.
That would be awesome. I would love that so much, and it's totally within reach. Like it's possible. So.
What are you going to do for pricing? I don't know. I'm sure you don't want to say the exact numbers yet, but are you thinking on the higher end, the lower end?
The lower end.
The lower end? Okay.
Thinking on the lower end. Steve is trying to push me up to the higher end, which is good. Okay. It's good to have a Steve. We all need a Steve. So a couple of thoughts on it. One is I feel like SQLite in its current incarnation amongst web developers is like a prosumer, like I want to explore kind of thing.
Right.
And so I do feel like it's a little bit of a fundamental difference between a Postgres or a MySQL, or people may be like, no, I use this at work already and I'm behind. And SQLite feels more like, oh, I could use this for my stuff. Let me learn about it. And so there's a little bit of a difference there that pushes me towards the lower side. Mm-hmm. But then the amount of material and the depth and the quality, I do feel like pushes it up to the high side. And then there's also the fact that Terso has sponsored us to like go in and build this. And so we don't need to extract every last dollar out of it. And maybe we do lower it and go for, breadth over, most maximizing outcome. So I don't really know. It's going to be under $200 for sure.
Oh, whoa. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So somewhere
easier
in there.
For Terso to help you if it's a lower, like their channels.
Exactly.
Like if you're trying to sell something that's $9.99, like they're not going to be that.
They feel weird being like, you can get a database, database for free. Go take this course for $1,000.
Are you going to do anything like tiers though? Like it's $199, but then you get it $399 or $275 or whatever. There's like certain modules become available or certain extras become available or anything like that?
I don't know. Part of me is just liking the simplicity of single price, get it all. I know that is historically suboptimal. I think Adam would say no.
He definitely
Nathan Barry. Like that. Yeah. Nathan Barry would say no, don't do that.
Because people just buy the best one. I always buy the best one, and I never even read the ebook.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. We'll definitely do like a team thing that can push up, the average customer value. We can push that up a little bit. I already think interviews are not going to be bonus, and so I've already kind of like precluded that from being a tier. There's a possibility that we like carve out, advanced JSON and advanced full text search, carve that out into like a higher module or a higher tier that includes other modules. But I don't know yet.
I was thinking the like stubbing the stuff to me that might even like the JSON people, that seems like something you might want to use even if you're just for yourself. But even if you go more to like actually like enterprise stuff, like if you're going to use Lightstream, how to use Lightstream with SQLite to like have production scalable backups, blah 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 blah, or if you get deep into the write ahead file or whatever, like maybe some of that kind of stuff. That's like this is not stuff you're just doing your side stuff. Like you don't really need to know about the deep parts of this. But if you're going to actually try to do this at work, then you do. Or if you just want to know about it, then it's more money. But enterprisey parts of it. Yeah, the full text search perhaps, or at least like the more advanced stuff than anything advanced there, or managing it, or I don't know. If you get into the actual file storage.
I feel a little torn on like the managing it stuff, because more so than Postgres and MySQL, I feel like you are going to be managing it, because it is just a file like on your computer. And so I think the default for Postgres and MySQL is let somebody else manage it. Like just go to RDS, or he who shall not be named, go somewhere else. But I feel like the default with SQLite is, I'm just going to do it myself. And so to carve out like ops and management into a higher tier feels a little bit, maybe for MySQL, but not for this.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, that's off to a great start. Wow, 2,400 signups. So
2,400 signups.
A few more
crazy
interviews. When it gets closer, people are just generally going to be more excited about it even than now. So,
and we'll have YouTube videos that are like specifically SQLite with, the hopes of getting people to go sign up for the course. And and so I've sent 2 emails to the list. And this is, a little strategy inside baseball here. One reason is I want to keep the list warm, of course. The other reason is I want launch day emails to land in a good spot, which hopefully is inbox, if not updates, but definitely not spam. And so getting both the domain and the list warmed up before time will hopefully make Google look at it and say, oh yeah, citizen in good standing, launch day emails, you're good to go, versus like, I'm just emailing 5,000 people for the first time ever on a brand new domain. So and it's working great. People are replying, which helps, of course, send that reputation way up.
Yeah, that's true too. That's a whole thing. Email.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
All right, you also had your Laravel React video. I don't think we talked about that, right? That was this week too. So
So I did a Laravel versus React video, which is a little cheeky, because the hook is Laravel versus React makes no sense. You guys are being silly. And it's done great. It's like my #1 video out of the last 10. And it's got, I think, 35,000 views right now, which is good. That's so good for me.
That's so good.
And so the whole shtick is like, you should use React or Vue with Laravel, and not use, basically without saying it, I tried to say like, don't use Next.js. Like that makes no sense. Don't do that. But it was fun, and Steve really came through on the graphics and made it look
the graphics
really
were
good.
Great. So how he just built the graphics in some tool or something like that, or who knows?
Who knows what he does? It's crazy. I imagine he built the graphics in some tool. I think it's probably After Effects. I think that's what he uses. But it looks so good.
I thought the visualization, which we're gonna have a little special guest here in a little bit, which is directly tied to this, but the visualization of those concepts I definitely think was super useful, especially for the JavaScript crowd who aren't really aware of where things start and end necessarily, or at least not from the viewpoint that a Laravel developer would have. And so I think having if you haven't seen the video, there's just a really nice graphics about here's Laravel, and here's the here's the back end, here's the network, here's the front end, and where all the different tools line up, whether it's Laravel or Rails, and your Inertia JS's or Livewire, and then obviously React and Vue and all that stuff. There's just like super nice visuals that made it clear. It's amazing how much better visuals make things. I kind of hope like AI gets, it's like all this promise of AI, but like that's the thing I would love to be able to do with AI. Like I just want to like create a visual for something, and I don't have a Steve. Yes, I could go hire a Steve like person, but that adds like all this layers of complexity that I have to deal with. And like I just want to go to the AI and be like, here's like a little thing I drew, turn it into something that looks nice, and have it be something I can use in a blog post or on Twitter or whatever. And like, so maybe we'll get there. I still think whenever I've tried something like that, it doesn't quite work out the way I would like it to.
Yeah.
But we'll probably get there with static things like that anyway. All right. do we want to do the
Let's
one
do
last
one
item
more.
here?
So we're gonna bring on a special guest here in a few minutes. Let's do one more. Let's do the new Once product, and then after our guest, we can finish with this final card that's on here. We can complain a little bit. So new Once product. My friend, my personal friend, DHH.
Yes.
They announced what their next once.com style product is, and it's like first of all, free, totally free. And it's like a book authoring tool that is based on Markdown but is a web app. And so I forget, what do they call it? I even forget what they call it. They call it something.
Is it like Writeboard or something like that?
Yeah, maybe Writeboard. So they announced it. It's not out yet. Going to be free. And Ian, I went immediately to Ian. And was like,
didn't even save it for the pod.
Look. And Ian said, I like it. So
I like it.
Big surprise from Ian.
Ta-da!
Why do you like it?
For newer listeners, we have talked about Once products before. If you go back into the history, there's a whole episode on it, whatever. But in summary, I think the once.com homepage is, it's not good. Let's just leave it there. It's not good. It's very out of touch with the reality of how things work in IT and in the real world.
Yeah.
But that said, it seems like they're learning and adjusting, and everything about this makes so much more sense to me than Campfire did.
Okay.
Or if Campfire had been free, that would even make more sense to me. But like, to pretend that everybody's going to want to use on-premise software and that's a real thing is silly. But this makes so much more sense. It's like, we have a need, we're bored, we want to do something different. Let's make some free stuff. It'll scratch our own itch. That's even a better way. If you really believe in everybody's going to move everything on premise, then that's even a better way to evangelize that, I think, than with this product that claims it has only bad support and stuff like that. Like, this is just not a good thing. So just say it's free. It's free. Use it. Enjoy it. And it's a nice little tight problem. I think it's a much more realistic it's like an actual problem. Publishing things in like a book style format is not actually that easy. Whereas like chat has a whole different dynamic that this tool doesn't solve, really, in my opinion. So, but yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it made so much sense from who they are, from what they're trying to do. It makes sense as like a free thing that people will probably like. It's obviously for an even nichier audience, but that's probably good as well. And so, yeah, I thought it was great. I was like, this makes so much sense. I love it. I got
the DHH no man to say yes.
Maybe I'll download it and try it. Who knows?
Maybe I'll
at least look at the code on this one, since I can just download it and check it out without having to buy it. So,
all right. So philosophically, how do you feel about running the same business for 20 years, which you know a lot about, and wanting to make new products? That's got to feel right to you, right?
This is all right. So we're gonna have the little conversation then, since we're gonna go into this. I was gonna actually put this on the Trello board, but I didn't.
Oh, wow.
But now that we're talking about it,
it's done it for so long. I know you. I got it.
So absolutely, of course, when you're doing something for this long, and I've been doing it almost as long as they have, and it's like all the time you get bored or burned out or whatever, and I think all of us make this mistake. I feel like this is Campfire Once is the same mistake I'm about to describe, which is you get bored, you get burned out, but you got into it because you love programming, right? And you're also now a business person, and you just go and you make the mistake that we all make, which is like, to relax, I'm going to start another software product.
Hell yeah.
Or
of course.
I'm going to rebuild my existing software product and all the new hotness, right? Like, I'm going to take on that kind of project, because that's going to rejuvenate my juices and all those things. And it's like always the wrong move. Like, I mean, who can you even name anybody's like second product that they built on the side that ended up being better? It's very rare that like that's ever worth doing. It always ends up being 90% of the time just doesn't get done. The other, 9% of the time it's not worth doing. And fine, 1% of the time somebody makes something that makes a lot of money. But it's always worse than your original idea that got you to where you were. And so, yeah, I think that's the same thing with Campfire. It's like, oh, we're gonna start a whole new strategy. We're gonna revolutionize software and all this stuff. because they're bored of doing Basecamp, which I totally get, and they needed that year or two to like reset and do something else. And so, but your mind just goes to that instead of going to things that would actually help you from being burned out or things of that nature. So I've actually been thinking about that a lot. I actually started writing up like a big Twitter, one of those post things, but then I was
wow.
I know, but I was like, I'll just save it for the podcast. But yeah, I don't know. I just think so. So I've made this mistake many times, like at least 5 times over 20 years. I've made this exact mistake, including very recently. And so I have been thinking a lot about this very specifically and what to do different, and like, how do you go do other things? So even if you want to do something software, because like that's like what you do as a side thing, it's like this whiteboard or whatever it's called is like a much better idea. It's like, I'm just going to build this and it's going to be free. I'm not putting all the pressure of starting a company or having support or guarantees, people mad, like all that stuff. Nope, none of that. Like, don't go build an open source thing probably either, really, because again, you get a lot of those same stresses of like people are yelling at you to do stuff and whatever. Like, that's all stuff that's just going to add more stress to your life, which is the problem you had to begin with, which is your main thing is stressful and you're trying to escape that stress a little bit. So, obviously the obvious answers people always give is like doing stuff outside of work or other hobbies and blah, blah, which is fine. And I definitely trying to do that.
Whatever.
Disconnecting from the computer, I think, is something I've been doing a lot more of. But there is the DHH said on your interview, right? Like, he wants to build stuff with his hands. He
wants to build stuff with these 2 hands.
It doesn't matter how much money you have.
He's got in my bones.
Infinite money, and he's still like, I want to build stuff, right? So it's like, how do you do that in a way that doesn't add to your stress, and also hurt your main product, because it becomes something that is now taking actual time down the road a little bit, because you have a handful of customers and they have desires and they have bugs and all that stuff, but it's making $1,000 a month and now you're super annoyed, but also you can't like totally dump it. And so now you're distracted from the actual thing that you probably only are ever going to have the one good idea. You had the good idea, it's working, and you're distracting yourself from it, for not a good reason. So yeah, so that's kind of my.
I'm glad I asked.
Yeah. It's sort of a weird problem, right? Because like not everybody has it. You have to get to a certain point where you have had something successful for 5 years or 7 years or whatever. So you kind of get to that point where it's like, oh, like we're working on this thing still and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it does happen. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out myself, so I definitely don't have it figured out. It's so easy online, right? And with building software nowadays to like fall into like, I'll just start a new print thing. And look at Laravel makes it so easy. In like 10 seconds, I have full authorization and Stripe and a front end and a back end, and it all works. And I'm halfway done, is what you tell yourself, but you're not halfway done. You're none of the way done. There's all the real work to do. So yeah, I'm sure I'll have more on this, because this is like a place I've been deeply thinking about, but that's kind of where I'm at currently, is to try to always be reminding myself to not get too far down these other paths. I feel like you see this a lot, even with, we've talked about this a little bit before, but people doing this, like, I'm doing 10 startups at once, or like every month I'm launching a new thing, or even if you have 3 or 4 things, and it's like, again, 99% of the time, it's like, this one makes $50,000 a month, and the other 7 combined make $3,000 a month. It's like, no, just get rid of all those. Like, you had the one good idea, you got lucky, you had a good idea that worked. You should just do that. Like, don't pretend you're going to be Levels and have 5 products that each make $50,000 a month. Like, that's not real. Nobody does that. That's not a real thing. Again, it's very unlikely you're going to be able to pull that off. You got one thing that made $50,000 a month. That means if you worked harder at it, and were smart and didn't get distracted and all these other things, it could make $150,000 a month. Like, you could definitely make $150,000 a month if you're at $50,000 a month. So that's where you have to like kind of stay focused. And when you want to be not focused, like, go be not focused and reset, and then come back and be focused on the only idea you've ever had that works and do that thing. So that's the thing. How many people have ever had 2 good ideas? Like, not a lot. There's not a lot of software founders that have had 2 good ideas. It's a very small number. Very small number. Software's hard. We think it's easy.
Software's hard.
It's very hard.
Software's
very,
so
very hard.
Yeah.
Hard to get people to take that credit card out.
Yeah, it sure is. Content's a lot easier, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, yes.
All right. Speaking of content, let's get our special guest on here.
All right.
So I'm gonna send him the link, and he's gonna pop in. And I guess I'll wait till he pops in to intro him so he knows what I've said. So, listeners, wait with anticipation to see who is about to show up.
We did run a little long, so hopefully he's still there.
Hopefully he's still around.
Oh, there he is.
Perfect. Right. Here we go. Okay. All right. Well, I haven't introed you yet. So welcome. Welcome to an in-progress recording of the Mostly Technical podcast. And for the dear listener, the person who just showed up is Sam Rose. Sam is a Twitter friend of mine, and he recently put out the most killer blog post / visualization of queuing, etc. And it's a delight and so fun to use. And so wanted to have him on the podcast to talk about that post and high effort content and what the strategy is. So Sam, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Ian, have you met Sam before? Have you seen his stuff or just this one post?
No, I hadn't seen him or his stuff until I guess you highlighted the post, I think. And yeah, I was blown away. I did have a little behind the scenes DM quick with Sam, and like I told him, like I actually started my software career in e-learning, and we were building what this product was called Active Books, and it was basically like doing this but for textbooks. We were part of Prentice Hall. We got acquired by Prentice Hall. I didn't make any money when we got acquired, but I was working there in Prentice Hall, and yeah, I don't know. It didn't work out then. And I feel like it still hasn't worked out in e-learning in general to have like this sort of like highly interactive content. It's still pretty rare out there. And just looking at Sam posted his GitHub repo of this course. And like when you go in there, like, oh, there's a lot of work. That's why it hasn't happened yet.
That's why it didn't work.
You can't just widget stamp these things out. Like it's like a full product to build this article. So, but yeah, very fascinating. But maybe, I don't know, maybe Sam, you could describe the article a little bit just in case people haven't seen it. And we'll obviously link it in the show notes. Everybody should definitely check this out. But maybe Sam, give us a quick rundown of what you do and this post in particular, but your other posts are similar as well.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. So this post and most of my posts really are kind of intros to what people would consider kind of computer sciencey topics. So I've done load balancing and hashing and memory allocation. This most recent one was queuing. Kind of like fundamentals, like things that in my head I pick things that are trying to be relevant for a very long time. So I'm hoping that 10 years from now, most of what I've written is still very, very relevant, even if the state of the art has moved forward. So you kind of begin at the very beginning, and most of my stuff tries to do that, where it's like, okay, let's start with no queue. Like, what happens with no queue? And you send a request, and the server receives it, and then you send like 2 requests very quickly, and you see that the server can't accept the second one. And then building up from there, kind of trying to take the reader on a journey through, okay, let's think of the simplest way of solving that problem, and you do that, and then you highlight, okay, that works great here, but there are more problems, and eventually hoping to end up somewhere like not at the full state of the art, but towards non-trivial, actually usable ideas in production.
So who are you writing these for? Because these, I think you said this one took like 3 months to do. And so what is and it shows, like it's not like, wow, this thing took 3 months. You're like, wow, this only took 3 months. So you look at it and it looks incredible. What is your goal? Like, why are you writing these things beyond the goodness of your heart?
There's like several competing motivations behind these. One of them, I wish I had this content. You know, I find that I learn best if I can see what's happening, and having this whole thing is like process visualization. It's like visualizing processes and emergent behaviors and things like that. I wish I had more of this when I was learning. Like, I learned primarily from textbooks and lectures, and occasionally some good video content, although it was a little bit less common back then, aging myself slightly. So partly for that, partly there is a little bit of a financial motivation. Like I have written some blog posts for people that have paid me to do it, and it is nice to kind of make some side money from this thing. And maybe, I don't know, like if I keep doing it and keep getting better at it, maybe I get more customers and I can start to do this as more of a serious thing, although very much far away from that at the moment. And then
interesting.
The other one being,
we need to come back to that one. Keep going. We'll come back to that one.
Yeah, like one of the last motivations. Just it's fun to do, and it's fun to get better at. Like I feel like this style of content, like you mentioned, it's still relatively rare. There's people in this space, but there's very few of us, and part of that is because it is so challenging. But part of that as well, I think, is you're stitching together a very large number of skills, and a lot of them are skills that I'm not yet, I think, very good at. Like it's all very new to me, like the design and user experience. I've spent most of my career as a backend engineer or like an infrastructure engineer. Having good design sense, it takes like forever to develop that skill. So like learning that as an extra kind of arrow in my quiver is part of the motivation.
I do feel like there are very few people that do this. I feel like you, Josh W. Komau, Kai Sasnowski, and that's all I can think of right now. So it's a wide open field, it seems like.
I was talking to Kai about this recently, how I almost feel like we have a bit of an anti-moat, because no business is ever going to make content like this. It's way too expensive. So we're kind of protected from people swooping in and taking over. There are some there are some other people in the space, like you could say like Julia Evans to an extent.
That's true.
Operates in the space, and then you've also got Nanda FYI on Twitter, who makes animated SVG content. He's written a course about that, which is fantastic. And then there's a few people. One of the nice things about doing this and becoming more and more recognized for it, people email me like, I've written something very inspired by your work, which really is really touching. I really like when people wrote to me about that. But there was one recently about rate limiting, which was fantastic, and it was well timed because rate limiting was not next in my queue, but the one after that, and the post this guy had written, his name's Sebastian, basically the post I was planning to write. So I was like, okay, well, I don't have to do that anymore.
Well, I think there's something when I saw this, being new to me, was like when you get something like this on video, which obviously on YouTube, like I'm sure I can find 100 videos that explain this concept, right? But it's like there's just such a difference between seeing it, like the last in, first out, and here's what happens, versus like, I'm clicking this button and I'm watching things queue up and I'm watching things not make it into the queue and I'm watching it go last to first or first to last, and just like just really sticks in your head a lot better when you are taking part in it versus just statically watching it for this kind of thing, especially. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Do you feel limited, I guess, in what topics you can cover because you have to find ones that are highly interactive, essentially, versus ones that maybe you could show somebody how it works or things like that?
I haven't felt limited so far. I have a list of things I want to cover, and the list grows rather than shrinks, in part because it takes a long time to make each one of them, but in part I think there is computer science is an incredibly broad subject area, and there's so many things to write about. Like I also have like a few pet ideas. So I wrote a post on bloom filters, for example, and bloom filters are not like super niche, but they're fairly niche as far as data structures go. And it was a bit of a pet project because I have loved bloom filters for a long time. I think they're an incredibly clever application of hash functions. So the next pet thing I'd love to write about is a thing called reservoir sampling, which nobody has ever heard of, and it's incredibly hard to
so
apply
far beyond me.
Yeah, no idea. That sounds like some real programming stuff there.
Yeah,
but this is part of it, though. It really isn't. It's not that hard.
Yeah,
Reservoir sampling is taking a finite sample from an infinite stream. So you might imagine like you're getting messages and you don't know how many you'll get, and you want to take a random sample of those. It's an algorithm that lets you do that, but it's very, very simple in practice. And I part of the motivation behind starting these things is I think a lot of topics are considered way scarier than they actually are. And as soon as you can like begin at the beginning and show people how the topic develops, like memory allocation was a good example of this, where I think 99% of the complexity of memory allocation is optimization. If you peel back decades of optimization work, memory allocation is very simple. It's just it has decades of layered complexity on top of it. And I think a lot of topics fit into that bucket.
So I want to hear about, I kind of want to hear about the business angle. You kind of are like, yeah, I like helping people. Maybe I'll make it a business. Also, I like helping people. Whoa, hang on a second. What's going on in the middle there?
Let's
So
get into the juice.
What do you do? What do you do for full-time work? And what is the goal of this high effort content?
So I'm currently working at a company called BuddyBase, and we build a low-code app building product. It's open source. You can go and see. You can go and see my day job if you really wanted to.
Cool.
But the kind of financial motivation here is I think it would be an incredibly fun career to have, writing posts like this. Like if that was my entire career, I'd have a blast. The problem is finding enough paying customers and finding enough paying customers that will pay high enough for it, considering how long it takes. Like, I am very far away from making this a full-time thing. Like, I think there is some level of possibility to go down to maybe like a 4-day week and spend a day a week working on this stuff. And I wouldn't fully supplement the salary I would lose by doing that, but I think it would be enough that it would be doable. It just the main thing is like this. I find this incredibly fun, and the more I can do of it, the happier I'll be.
Now, this was on the Encore site. Was this something you did for them, or do you work there? This was
no. Encore's fun. Encore is a very, very small company doing really cool stuff with static analysis and info. I actually applied to work there a long time ago because it's a bunch of people who used to work for a company I worked at, and didn't quite work out, but we kind of kept in touch, and they reached out saying, really enjoy your blog post. Would you be interested in writing on the Encore blog? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I love what you're doing. I'm very happy to have my name attached to it. That was the post I did on retries. And we picked that one specifically because the product they're building is like a SaaS product to help you build microservice architectures. So retry is very, very relevant to that. And then that post did very, very well for them, and they got in touch again asking you I'd like to write another one. That was the queuing post that was just released a couple of weeks ago. But they pay pretty well for considering. So I've in the past been reached out to by LogRocket and things like that, and the money that I got for the Encore post was way more than they are paying, purely because they understood that these take a long time. But it's still very, very far away from being a full-time thing.
Yeah, I would imagine the number of companies that want this is somewhat small, and then the number of companies that are willing to pay enough for it is vanishingly small.
Yeah, I have had companies reaching out to me, and I do have some calls coming up with them, but I wouldn't know how to keep a very steady stream of that kind of business coming in. It's all very new to me, and I think it would eventually dry up.
Is there money in... Go ahead, Ian.
No, you go ahead. I have a
is there money in teaching other developers how to do this kind of stuff?
Possibly. I know the courses space in general is currently pretty hot, and people are making a lot of money off courses. I wouldn't be surprised if I made a course on how to do this, that it would do okay. I don't know to what extent it would be like a smash hit that would make me lots of money.
But last follow-up on this, and then Ian, you go. I think I would love to learn it. But also you've got all these great top of funnel articles out there that just totally crush it. And then if in the middle or the bottom or top you would say hey, you want to learn how to do this, I'll teach you. That feels like a really nice built-in marketing strategy that's like, hey, listen, you're on this page because this strategy works. Why don't you learn how to do it as well? So
yeah, 100% agree with you. And to an extent, I have my little newsletter widget at the bottom of it, and that gives me a bit of a kind of feel on how well that does, and that's been doing quite well. So that would be something there for sure. And the topics themselves, I think, are topics that every year or two could come around again. Like somebody rediscovers this, post it to 8chan or whatever, and it does well again. I think that they don't age very quickly because they're covering, I think, fairly fundamental stuff that isn't going to change.
Yeah, to me, just to dig into the businessy end of it, I feel like that to me is the biggest area of maybe improvement, I guess I would say, because your articles are not all on your domain. If I was you, my 2 cents of advice was I wouldn't do anything for these other companies, and I would just do it all for yourself. And then that widget at the bottom. I was like, I can't believe I'm looking at your articles. Like, I can't believe he doesn't have a newsletter sign up. But like then I saw it's like at the very bottom there. But I mean, I think I would be very aggressive about getting people to sign up for your future articles, because I think it's the kind of thing where like, oh my God, this was so interactive and cool. Yes, I'm happy to give you my email, which is so rare nowadays. Like, who wants to give anybody their email, right? But it's like, this was so cool, and I know you're not releasing it every day, right? And so it's like, I just want to know 4 months from now when you release another one, like, let me know. But like, be aggressive in collecting those email addresses, and then figure out what you'll do with it later. Like, it doesn't even matter. You don't have to have a plan now for that, but it's way too subtle on there now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It should be like, boom, it's at the top. I make these awesome things. Don't miss it. Boom, halfway through the post again, I would have it like embedded in there and be like, oh, this is cool, right? Don't miss my next one. It's coming up. And get that list going. And then who knows what you're going to do with it. You're going to figure out what you're going to do with it later. But yeah, I don't know, that was my thinking.
This may not have come across yet. I am crushingly British. And it took a huge amount of emotional like resilience to just reach out to Aaron and ask to be here in the first place. Like, it's very, very hard to be aggressive about these things.
British.
Yeah,
you gotta be aggressive.
Fantastic.
Hey, if you can come on here, that's once you get the newsletter sign up form widget built, you're done. You don't even have to think about it yourself anymore.
Right.
It just keeps collecting, and you're not even looking at it.
That's why we have business dad Ian to say you gotta do more. You gotta be more aggressive. Yeah. I agree. I agree with Ian on everything that he just said. Not on everything ever, obviously, but on everything he just said, I fully agree. Get all those people on your list, and then you figure out later what you're going to do with it. Having the list is huge, I think.
Yeah. For sure. And sorry, Ian, go on.
I was just going to say, in terms of selling things for like the kind of making money now, which is always nice as well. It's like, my inclination would be to keep the stuff that's about computer science for yourself, I think. But this can apply to all kinds of stuff. Like, I can imagine a HelpSpot version of this that's like customer service agent concepts and how you train a customer service manager or whatever. Like, you could apply this same style to business problems. And that's the thing I would be trying to make money on, I think, is you like this cool style. Like, imagine this in your business process flow for your internal training or whatever, like, or as your marketing. I mean, I could see it on the marketing site for HelpSpot or something else where it's like, this is how this works. Look at the emails come in and then they go routed here and they go routed there. And then it creates a report and it's like a nice, cool little interactive animation thing. Like, so there's probably other ways to have things that aren't connected to what you want to do marketing wise for yourself that you could still make money on a consulting basis. And then those worlds would be kind of separate, which I think would be kind of cool.
Yeah. So not the first person to give that advice. I've been, people have actually like cautioned me about you don't do too many of these things. Like, you're kind of diluting yourself a little bit. And, I think I'm coming around to it. Like, I think I'm coming around to the idea that...
Yeah, I don't know about diluting yourself. I just think you should do them for yourself. Like, I think it would be better to do more of them. But for yourself, on your site, is where I would want... Like, if you could do one a month, it should be on your site. And then, that's how I would probably approach it. That's what it feels like to me. Because once they're all over the place, it's kind of like, I don't even know if you have the rights to use this one. If you wanted to package these up someday and sell it in some way or build a course based on it or whatever. Like, so it'd be nice to own it all, I think.
If Sam is crushingly British, we're aggressively American, and I love it.
We should have like a flag with an eagle. Like, I got to get that as the backdrop.
Oh man. Okay, Sam. There's your very pro-capitalist take on it. I want to hear. You wrote all this. You did all this work. Then you published it. What happened when you published it? How did it go?
So queuing did well. So nothing has ever reached the heights that load balancing did. The first one I ever did, I still get tons of like newsletter signups. I get people emailing me, thanking me for writing it. It has kind of done the rounds a couple of times now, and nothing has ever come close. Like the after I published it, I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying this, but the CEO of Vercel DM'd me like, "This is an amazing post. Like, well done." And I was just like,
"Awesome.
How do I reply? I don't." Anyway,
amazing.
But queuing did good. It got good numbers. I got a lot of really nice feedback from people. I got some constructive feedback from people as well. I do the nice feedback is nice. Like I'm very thin-skinned and I like validation. Like I'm not fooling myself here. Like the numbers are validating and nice. But the constructive stuff really helps. And I'm very sincere when I say to people, I'm very much trying to get better at this with every post. I'm trying to learn how to do some new things. I try very hard with accessibility, although I've been having tendonitis recently, so like my hands are quite painful, partly as a result of trying to finish this post off and get it published. So I've been slowing down and learning how to use like voice control on my computer and do like voice control coding, things like that, and realize that my post is fundamentally inaccessible to voice control. And I was like, oh no, we failed. So I'm trying to do something every single post that improves accessibility, improves design, iterate on that kind of thing. I've completely forgotten what the original question was here. Sorry.
Just like what the results were and how you feel about the feedback.
I feel good. I feel very good. It's always you always feel like, you know, it would have been good if it was better, but I'm very very happy with the way it went. And overall, nothing I have written, this is not a flex, but like nothing I have written has like flopped. I'm very very proud of that. I think it's almost a bit of a cheat code to put enormous amounts of effort in. I find if you think of content as like a Punnett square, like high frequency, low frequency, high effort, low effort, I find I am surrounded by algorithms that reward the frequency axis like way too much, in my opinion. Like posting every day is rewarded very heavily, but and I guess it'd be very very difficult to reward quality because it's hard to determine what quality is. But spending a long time building something very very high quality, you're almost always going to do well, I think.
Yes, I agree. And I think, oh goodness, I have a lot of thoughts. I think one is like being on Twitter is so ephemeral that like the game there is just like post whatever's on your mind, kind of low effort, like high frequency, low effort, put it out there, see what works, keep moving. But the stuff that gets Vercel CEO to DM you, the stuff that gets on Hacker News once every 3 months, the stuff that like gets you on podcasts, that's not the low effort, high frequency. That's just high effort. And I think fundamentally high effort has to be low frequency, otherwise you'll die. So I think that I am, of course, a big fan of the high effort. Do more than anyone else would deem reasonable, and you're pretty much guaranteed to get some good outcome. Whether that's a job or a bunch of newsletter signups or Guillermo DMing you, something interesting is going to happen.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah.
So what's next?
Yeah.
Resting for a while.
Good.
While my hands recover. I do have some conversations with other companies coming up, but I know the next topic I want to write about for me on my domain, but I tend to be very secretive about them, so I'm not going to say, but it's going to be really, really cool. It is possibly the most fundamental of computer science topics. That's my hint.
Man. Binary data.
Yeah, I don't know enough to even hazard a guess.
Wow.
Oh gosh. Ian, any other questions or anything before Sam? We're gonna let you go. We have one thing to complain about, but Ian, do you have any questions or follow-ups?
No, I just say it was awesome. I think in the age of like kind of the death of the blog post in a lot of ways, right? That like having a blog post that's just so engaging was really nice and refreshing. I think that is kind of like a lesson for people. Like sometimes you can go back to these other formats or whatever. Like you could take a new spin at something in a new way, and it still works. So yeah, that was awesome.
Sam, anything? We'll put links to everything in the show notes. But anything else that you want to cover before we tell people where to find you?
No, I'm all good. Just thank you very much again for having me on.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for writing high effort, high quality blog posts and then reaching out and being like, hey, I want to talk about it. That's how this stuff works. That's great. I love it so much. So thanks for coming on. Why don't you tell people, we'll put it in the notes, but tell people where they can find you as well. Go ahead.
For sure. Yeah. So my personal website is samwho.dev. That's samwho.dev. And my homepage has links to essentially everything that I've done.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks for coming in for this middle of the live show segment. And y'all go check out his blog post, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks,
Later.
Sam.
Bye.
All right. I like the guests pop in the middle and keep the party going. That's fun.
Segment. Whew.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That was crazy. We're like
a real show. Also hysterical the way he said crushingly British.
I know.
That was so
like,
delightful.
Oh,
yeah,
that
was great. All right.
Like you just got a big dose of radiation from us, though. It's like
I know. We're like telling him how to turn this niche little love of his into a big old business where he can work forever.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you like doing that? That's great. How are you going to make tons of money and conquer the universe with it?
Like, you like it? Why don't you do it more, buddy? Sorry, Sam. All right, we got a complaint about. I assume this is a complaint. Right. So, what do you have on the card here?
Oh, wait. Oh, no. The final item, that was for Sam.
Oh, that was for Sam.
For Sam.
I thought it was the other Sam.
No, it was this Sam.
Oh, Sam.
We're going to talk about it without him.
I goofed. I'm sorry, Sam.
Who? I forgot it.
We just patted ourselves on the back for 45 seconds about being a real show and doing segments, and this said Sam, and I thought it was Sam Selikov. Dang it.
Nope. Sam Rose. I had a little note I added. Well, I just wanted to, on his website, like right at the top of his homepage, he has a little thing about who he is. And one of the things that he likes is whiskey with ice. And I just wanted to have a little discussion about that because I'm a neat man myself. And we were going to have a little banter, but
that would have been
no banter.
That would have been great.
So now I'll ask you. Are you a neat man?
That would have been a great show.
No. Wait, maybe we have to scrap the whole thing
I've
and
never
re-record.
I've never bungled anything so badly than letting the guest go before the card that says Sam, ice and his whiskey. Shoot.
Oh,
golly.
Well, we're not used to this pop-in segment.
No,
we weren't prepared.
That's on us. Okay, so let's talk about Sam putting ice in his whiskey now that he's gone. Wow, what a disaster. I don't know, man. I don't drink whiskey. I drink gin.
Whiskey.
So yeah, it's not even a segment. What am I gonna I can't even do the segment. Gosh.
Can't even do
that's on me.
I thought, because it's funny because we have a follow-up item. I thought you were going to want to cover this follow-up item about the iPhone tracking stuff. So I thought that was your final segment.
Okay, let's move on to that.
We were totally disconnected. Let's give the people one final segment of something. We promised the final segment.
What a nightmare.
That's such a
all right, so
downer.
Yeah, now, and we're back. Okay, let's talk about this final segment. I asked a bunch of young people about this iPhone tracking debacle. And you, Ian, will be so shocked when I tell you they all track each other.
Are these children?
Like as friends.
How young?
No, like mid-20s. 25 and beyond. They're like, yeah, I'd probably have... I don't know. I probably have 20 or 30 people that I share my location with.
These people.
Fun. It's fun. Every now and then I'll get a text and they're like, what are you doing at Trader Joe's? And I'm like, y'all are crazy. This is beyond.
Yeah, exactly.
This is way beyond anything I would ever do. But they're all like, yeah, it's just, I like to see what my friends are up to. Crazy.
This is the problem with the youth. The youth.
No, this is the youth have a lot of problems. This is not their problem. But yeah, the youth have problems. But this is crazy.
No, I tell you, man. I see now where when you're young, you think the old people are crazy. Why do the old people think the youth are all messed up? I'm starting to get it. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm like, these youth with the screens and the iPhones and the tracking,
JavaScript frameworks and
JavaScript, TypeScript BS, all of it. It's all bad. All bad. You don't need anybody tracking you. Don't let people track you.
I happen to agree that you don't need your friends tracking you. That I agree
common
with.
Ground.
Within the covenant of marriage, I'm like, great, you can know where I am all the time. I don't super care. Right. But like, I don't need my idiot friends to know what I'm doing all the time.
No. Who knows who they're letting their phone around with? Who knows the whole thing?
Yeah,
you don't need
they're probably
people tracking.
broadcasting my location live.
They could be.
It's a vector. It's an attack vector.
It's another vector. It's unnecessary.
Oh man! Wow,
Don't do
really saved it. We really salvaged that last segment there.
That was much better than talking to Sam about how he likes his whiskey. I'm sure that was much better.
The card that was on the board for the guest that I then said, "You can go now," so we can talk.
We always got to use last names on the cards from now on. We can't risk it.
Okay, well, if you want to be a segment on the show, just let us know, and we'll try not to bungle it next time.
Maybe. We do have a guest next week, a big one, a big guest. So,
all right, are we announcing?
We'll see. No, it's not. No. We can't. Who knows? Stuff happens, and then it doesn't work out, and then yeah. So we're just gonna let it happen, but we're gonna try not to bungle that one.
Whew, man, can't promise. Let's try not to. Can't bungle that one.
We can't promise. All right, let's wrap it now. I'm deflated. I've been hacked this morning. I messed up the card. Whatever, it'll be all right.
You gonna go have a beer mosa? Do you know what a beer mosa is?
No, I don't actually know what a beer mosa is.
It's all in the name, actually. It's a little bit of champagne, but like beer and orange juice.
Beer and orange juice.
Beer and orange juice. It's good.
I've had like that Belgian beer with like orange slices and stuff, but I don't think
that's a good one for a beer mosa.
Juice.
Yeah.
That's very Texas. I like that.
Great way to start. Great way to start the holiday weekend or the guys' weekend, or you just start out with some beer mosas. So
I've been kind of off of the drinking, but I should.
Man, we don't have time. This is crazy, man.
I should get back into drinking. I'm not like officially off it, but like I'm not not drinking, but I'm just haven't been drinking. I haven't had a drink in like 3 or 4 months probably or something like that. So,
well, Mary Perry will be glad to hear that I never actually started nicotine, so she influenced me. I was gonna start the Zen. I was gonna start the Zen and unlock like limitless powers, and Mary Perry texted me and was like, "Please don't do that." It's like, shoot. Okay. Yeah, she did. She really
People are concerned about you.
People are concerned. I'm like, nicotine's good, right? And I get a bunch of DMs. So
I just love their marketing though, because it's like just like Zen, it's just like white. Like there's just like no money spent on it, or maybe tons of money spent on it, right? Who knows? Like maybe they have some brand managers and the whole thing, and they've got 20 million into the brand. But whatever it is,
it's the whole. I woke up like this, trying hard to look like you didn't try hard, and they're pulling it off. Yeah,
they are pulling it off though. All right. Thanks, everybody. Follow us, mostlytechnical.com, at mostlytechpod on Twitter, X, whatever. mostlytechnicalpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll probably check those emails soon. And we will see you next week with hopefully a very special guest. Talk to you later.
See ya.